How I Met My Nigerian Husband, Part 5. So, yes, we went on that first date. Very good first date. Here's some things I learned about him on that first date. He was a Christian, but he was not religious. He came from a polygamous home, but he was not raised in a polygamous home. Kind of happened a little bit later in his teen years. He came from a large family. He was the senior in the family. Worked two jobs, as he would say, two menial jobs, because he would get up in the morning, come go to work, come home, sleep a couple hours, and then went to his second job at night. He was not in the U.S. illegally. He was actually here legally, but his visa situation, of course, had a time, date stamp on it where he would have been here illegally. And he had not been in the U.S. very long. He had never dated an African American woman before or an American woman before, had never considered it before. His close friend in the U.S. Was married to an African American woman, and he was intrigued because they had a kid, they had a good relationship, and he said, "Oh, okay." He had dated some Nigerian women or met some Nigerian women while he was in the U.S. Never really worked out. And for multitude of reasons. I mean, one of the things he said was because, he was working a couple of menial jobs. He didn't have a career. He didn't have papers. So they didn't really want to deal with that documentation or that, somebody that's not settled or established already. Then he told me this funny story. He said he met this lady, this Nigerian lady. He said, I went to her house and she asked me to take off my shoes and I never went back. I said, oh. He said, no, I never went back. I said, because she asked you to take off your shoes? He said, yeah, I never went back. What type of rubbish is that? And I said, oh, okay, I put that one in my back pocket. And what else did I learn? I learned that he wanted 3 children. I learned that he had a science background as far as his degree. He wanted to pursue the sciences here, and the way he thought to do that was becoming a nurse. Back in the day, you come to the U.S., you go to community college, become a nurse, and have a career. That was the thing back then. I wasn't in agreement with that, but we could talk about that later. I did realize he wanted a submissive wife, not submissive in the sense that he was looking for somebody to kind of cower down to him, but someone that would respect him regardless of if he's working 2 menial jobs or if he's the president of a corporation. You just got to respect me. Right? Respect me. And that was his thing. It was all about respect. You're not going to run over me. He was all about the respect thing, right? And I think that had something to do with 2 perspectives. African American want to just that. And he, you got to respect me. And I'm like, okay, hold up, dude. Hold up. You going to get it if you going to get respect if you get it. Okay, we good. I did realize, too, he was a bit passive aggressive. And I had to take that again, put that in the pocket. He was kind of shy, quiet, soft-spoken, liked to debate, will defend his culture to a T. You better not say nothing bad or wrong. He gonna correct you. But very strong. And I mean, I was very intrigued by him and how he kind of came off. Very clean cut, very clean guy, cared about his appearance. Definitely was asking about food though. You know how to cook? What type of food you cook? Do you mind being in the kitchen? So that was that was off the rip, like first date about the food, which was very interesting. I don't mind cooking, but he was talking about the food. But after that, we actually started dating after that. And that's where it gets kind of interesting. When I start meeting all the friends, going to the party, but you know what? Come back for part 6. We're going to talk about the dating aspect. How I Met My Nigerian Husband, Part 6. So the date went really well. After the date, we met up a few times. He would go on break from work. I would go up to his job because it wasn't far from where I lived, and we would sit in the car and talk, and I really got an opportunity to really continue to see him for who he is and have kind of those intimate conversations. He invited me up to meet his friends and go to his apartment, and I was like, okay, cool. So we scheduled a time, and I went up to his apartment. He lived on the side of town, which was very multicultural in the city. I mean, you had every country represented on this side of town. So it would make sense that he lived on that side of town. I mean, because you had Nigerian restaurants, you had Ethiopian restaurants, you had Chinese restaurants, you had Pakistani restaurants. So you had all access. So you felt like you were not missing home in this particular type of area, especially when it came to food, right? And also culture, because a lot of Nigerians lived on this area, in this part of town. And so I go to his apartment. Everybody's like, hey, hey. I'm like, hey, hey, very welcoming, very nice. What do you like to drink? I think they didn't have what I like to drink. Somebody ran out and got the drink. What do you want to eat? Do you want papayas? Papayas? And I was like, no, I'm good. I don't need papayas. So funny. No, I'm good. I don't need papayas. Chinese? And I'm like, yeah, maybe some fried rice. Okay, great. So we ate Chinese food, which was good. And so at the party, I remember they said, do you listen to Nigerian music? Do you like Nigerian music? And I said, I don't think I've ever heard Nigerian music. And at the time, how ironic was this? Two-Face, African Queen, was rolling during this time. You are my African queen, the girl of my dreams. That was the song. That was the first Nigerian song or African song that I had ever heard. And so they turned that song on and everybody's singing and he's singing to me, you're my African queen. It was so funny, and it's ironic because of everything that's going on with Two-Face and Annie, right? But that was the first song that I ever heard or recognized from a Nigerian artist. So that became kind of our song, African Queen. And so after meeting his friends, I think that solidified a lot for me. Of getting to know him, because his friends were an extension of him. There were people that he had just met in the city, but there were also people that were his friends and roommates that he had knew from Nigeria, that he had grew up with and had close relationships with. So they were all there, motivating and helping one another, right? And helping him because he was new to the U.S. So after that, we decided, of course, to continue to see each other, take things a little further, and he wanted to take me to my first Nigerian restaurant, which was an experience. So come back for part 7. How I met my Nigerian husband, part 7, I think. Okay. But anyway, after meeting his friends, really amazing experience. A couple days later, we go out to this Nigerian restaurant. A lot of Nigerians in there talking loud, doing what that the Nigerian men typically do, talk loud. They're not arguing, they're just debating and having a conversation. But anyway, they give me the menu. First thing I see on the menu is goat. And I said, goat? Y'all eat goat? And he's like, oh, goat is tantalizing. And I'm like, goat? Wow. I'm like, only thing I've really ever ate was chicken, fish, beef, and pork every now and then. So he orders a number of things like jollof, fried rice, egusi with fufu. And, first thing the food comes out, I grab my fork. I'm getting ready to, I ate some of the rice. And then I'm like getting ready to touch the fufu. He's like, ah, ah, ah. And I said, well, what? He said, you have to eat that with your hands. I said, with my hands? He's like, yes, you eat it with your hands. So they bring out a bowl of water. He shows me how to wash my hands in the water, grab the fufu, scoop it up with the egusi and eat it. I was like, okay, I'm down for a cultural experience. Let's do this. So I did it. I tasted. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the egusi, but he's like, people make egusi different ways. That way I didn't really like. But the jollof and the chicken was hard as hell, but that's the hard chicken. It was hard as hell. Was not used to that. I was used to a nice, tender chicken leg. This chicken, you had to work with it to eat it. And so this was the hard chicken. And so during this sit down, he turns to me and is like, I want to marry you. I said, what? He said, yeah, I want us to get married. I said, get married? I said, I've only been knowing you like a month and a half. I don't know what you're talking about, getting married. That hasn't even crossed my mind. I thought we were getting to know one another. He's like, I don't need to get to know you anymore. You're my wife. And I said, I'm your wife. How do you know that? He said, I prayed for you. He said, everything that I pray for in a wife is in you. And I said to him, I just can't run off and get married. I got a kid I got to think about. There's a lot that goes along. There's a lot of things going through my mind. All the negative talk from the beginning of him meeting me from people, the papers, the wives back at home, like all these things. So I'm regurgitating all this stuff back to him. He's like, I'm not answering no more questions about that. I told you, I have no reason to lie. He's like, I'm not talking about that. I want to get married. I want to get married. I want to marry you. And I said, wow, I don't think I can accept if this is an engagement. Or I don't know if I can accept that at this point. It's something I really have to think about. I know I can't. I'm not there yet. It's been a month and a half. I like you. I think you're a nice guy. I think you have a lot of potential. I like you as a person. I like you as a man. I can even consider you a friend at this point. But a marriage? Like, that's forever. Like, we would really have to. And I said, I'm not sure about that yet. And he said, okay, but I'm going to marry you. I said, all right, I hear you. You got it figured out. And he said, yes, I do. Really start to get rolling there. What they say, pressure burst pipes. This pipe did not bust.